Hi, Kathy and Jeff back again, this time with Grade 6, Unit 7, Cells. This unit should take you about 2 to 3 weeks, and then you move on to human body systems.
With the new Massachusetts standards, this is a new topic for 6th grade. We want to make sure that you focus on the details in the standard and don't go too deep. Let's take a look at the first standard in this unit, 6MS-LS1-1. Provide evidence that all organisms, unicellular and multicellular, are made of cells, and there's a clarification statement. Evidence can be drawn from multiple types of organisms such as plants, animals, and bacteria.
What this means is that students should learn about plants and animal cells, the similarities and the differences. There are also millions of organisms that are made of only one cell or are unicellular. Organisms such as the paramecium, bacteria, and many parasites or disease-carrying organisms are made up of only one cell. In this unit, make sure that you discuss plant cells, animal cells, and also some of these one-celled organisms.
Some organisms are made of many cells with many different cell types. For example, in a human being, we have blood cells, muscle cells, nerve cells, skin cells, all with different forms or shapes and with different functions. In addition to graphics and images like the one on the left, try to show students pictures of real cells, such as the cells in this polyp from a large intestine. This way they can see that many variations on real cells are within our body or in various microorganisms.
As you move into your next unit on human body systems, you'll make the connection for students that cells work together to make up tissues, and then organs systems.
The second standard in this unit, 6MS-LS1-2, focuses on cell functions and some of the organelles within the cell. This standard asks the students to develop and use a model. We'll talk about that in a minute. The content in this standard asks students to describe how the parts of cells contribute to the cellular function of obtaining food and water and other nutrients from its environment, disposing of waste, and providing energy for cell processes. There's a clear list of which organelles students need to learn. Keep your list to these organelles: the nucleus, which contains a cell's genetic material and regulates its activities;
Chloroplasts, which produce necessary food, sugar, and oxygen through photosynthesis in plants;
mitochondria, which release energy from food through cellular respiration;
vacuoles, which store materials including water, nutrients, and waste;
the cell membrane, which is a selective barrier that enables nutrients to enter the cell and waste to be expelled;
the cell wall, which provides structural support in plants.
The state has also identified things that students do not need to know in grades 6 to 8. The state assessment boundary lets us know that specific biochemical steps or chemical processes, the role of ATP, active transport processes, involving the cell membrane, or identifying or comparing different types of cells are not expected in the state assessment.
With the new standards, when we ask students to develop and use a model, that can mean a 3D model, such as these models of animal cells, or it can have many other examples. A scientific model is where scientists represent a particular phenomena in the world using something else to represent it, making it easier to understand. This could be a diagram, a picture, something like the posters behind us. It could be a computer program or a math equation that helps to predict or explain an outcome.
A visual model could be a flow chart, a diagram, a picture. Whatever the format, a visual model contains information, and we need to teach our students how to access that information in the model or use a model to explain what they know. For example, here's a diagram of two cells. Start by asking students what they see or what they notice in this model. This is all you do for the first step. Then come back to this model throughout the unit and ask students what they know about the model, and then ask them, how did they know that? What did they see in the picture that makes them say that?
All right, so Jeff, let's try this out. You be the teacher and I'll be the student.
Okay. What do you notice in this model?
Well, I see a rectangular shape on the left, and I see that it's green.
Okay. So Kathy sees that there's a rectangle and it's green. Then I might go to another student. What do you see in the model? And I'd come back to the model later in the unit with a slightly different approach. This time I would ask students, what do you see in the picture?
All right, so now that we're further in the unit and I've learned a little bit about cells, I might say the one on the left is a plant cell.
What in the model makes you say that?
Oh, it has a cell wall.
So Kathy says that this is a plant cell. She says that there's a cell wall. Kathy, what in the model makes you say that it's a cell wall?
Well, because the border is thicker than the picture on the right.
Kathy sees that there's a thicker border on the cell on the left, and she thinks that it's a cell wall. When you work with your students, make sure that you guide them back to the model and make sure that they find evidence in the diagram or model to support their claim. Keep coming back to the picture model throughout the unit to see how student understanding and knowledge grows. Then add other diagrams and models of the same thing, plant and animal cells, and see how they do transferring understanding from model to model.
So in the next section of the video, we'll show you how to make a 3D model for a cell. Here are some of the materials that I used for the cell. You'll notice in the center I used yellow gelatin to represent the cytoplasm. The jelly beans, I just picked out the green ones to represent chloroplast. The crescent-shaped candy was for mitochondria, marshmallow for the vacuole, the red and white circle candies were the nucleus, and then the footlong candy on the upper left I used to represent cell wall. It's a strip that you can pull out of a roll and you could shape it around to be the cell wall. You can put your Jell-O into a rectangular bread pan or perhaps a square cake pan to represent the plant cell. And then for animal cell, use either a muffin pan or a pie plate. I'm suggesting that you make it a little bigger than the muffin pan to make sure all the organelles will fit. What's nice about this model is the obviously round and rectangular representing the two different cells, but look how deep that Jell-O is, making it a lot easier to put many organelles inside of that Jell-O. In this photo, you see the molds are on the left and the organelles are on the right. Use a plastic knife to cut some of the candy that might be too thick to actually fit inside your mold. I cut my mitochondria in half to make them fit a little bit better. Working with your Jell-O, if you try to stuff the organelles into the Jell-O, it kind of makes a mess. So you can see in this picture that the teacher cut the Jell-O in half, put the organelles in, and then put the top half of the Jell-O back on the model. These are just a few different approaches to using Jell-O in your cell model. The reason we like Jell-O is that it represents the cytoplasm by being very three-dimensional, wiggly, jiggly, as opposed to the models maybe with the cell pizza or the cell cake, which are very, very rigid. Here's a really interesting variation on the Jell-O cell model. By using a Ziploc baggie and putting the cytoplasm and the organelles into a bag, the students would be able to manipulate that and really understand the three-dimensionality of a cell, and that it is very flexible and fluid. It's not rigid.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed our video, and make sure to go back to the Moodle site and look at the many resources we've provided for you to teach this unit to your students. Also, your HSP textbook addresses cells in Chapter 1.
Well, we'll see you in a few weeks with our next video for human body systems. And do remember,
Science matters.